Chapter 6. The Citadel of Shadows. The journey from the ancient ruins was fraught with unease, for as I departed, a sense of foreboding washed over me. I could feel the weight of the darkness lurking in the very air, and I knew that the path ahead would be far from easy. The Citadel of Shadows, the stronghold of Asmodeus, awaited me. It was said to be an ancient fortress hidden deep in the mountains, where the very fabric of the world had been twisted by evil. The citadel was no mere fortress. It was a place where the Dark Lord's influence reigned supreme, whereas legions of demons and fallen creatures gathered in their endless thirst for destruction. To enter such a place was a fool's errand, a death sentence for any who were unprepared. But I, Blaise Titus, was no mere mortal. I carried the sacred scapular upon my breast, and I was marked by the divine. The Seraphil had prepared me, granting me strength, clarity, and the divine power to face this challenge. And so, with unwavering resolve, I set forth toward the citadel. For the first time, I had come to confront the darkness head on. The citadel itself was a terrifying sight. Its black stone walls stretched towards sky like jagged laws, and the towers loomed high above, casting a shadow that seemed to swallow the land beneath them. The very air around the citadel was thick with malevolent energy, as though the fortress itself had a life of its own, its dark heart pulsing with hatred. As I approached the entrance, I could hear the distant cries of tormented souls trapped within the citadel walls. The winds howled through the narrow pass, whispering the names of those who had fallen, and the promise of suffering that awaited any who dared enter. And I was deterred. The scapular burned with holy light against my chest, a beacon in the midst of the glowing darkness. I crossed the threshold of the citadel, stepping into the very heart of evil itself. Inside, the air was thick with suffocating silence, broken only by the echo of my own footsteps. The halls were lined with twisted statues, the faces of demonic creatures carved into the stone, their eyes forever frozen in a scream of anguish. The walls themselves seemed to shift, as though the citadel was alive, shifting and changing to trap me in its labyrinthic corridors. As I ventured deeper into the heart of the fortress, I encountered the first of Asmodeus' minions, grotesque, shadowy figures that slithered and crept in the corners of my vision. They watched from the shadows, their eyes gleaming with malevolent intent, but they dared not approach, for they knew what I carried, the light of heaven itself. I reached the central chamber, a vast hall, where the throne of Asmodeus awaited me. It was an ornate seat of black obsidian, with runes carved into its surface, glowing faintly with an unholy fire. The air in the chamber was thick, oppressive, as though the very fabric of reality itself had been robbed by the Dark King's presence. And there he was, Asmodeus, seated upon his throne of darkness, his eyes burning with malice as he gazed down upon me. His form was imposing, towering over me, his features twisted into a grotesque mockery of mankind. His skin was ashen and cracked like charred stone, and his wings, once beautiful and angelic, were now blackened and raged like the wings of a fallen angel. In his hand he held a staff, crowned with a dark crystal that pulsed with evil energy. "Ah, Blaze Titus!" Asmodeus hissed, his voice like the growl of a dying beast. "You come to me, Domain, thinking you can defeat me? You carry the scapular, yes, but you truly believe that a mere trinket can stand against the might of the King of Demons?" His laughter filled the chamber, a sound that sent chills down my spine. He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing in cruel amusement. "You are but a child, a pawn in my game that you do not understand. The light you carry is weak, a flickering flame that will be extinguished the moment it faces through darkness." I stood tall, though my heart pounded with the weight of his words. I knew that the darkness he spoke of was powerful, but I had faith in the scapular and in the divine light that buried within me. I would not be swayed, not now, not ever. "You underestimate the light, Asmodeus," I replied, my voice steady, though my body trembled with the force of his presence. "It is not a flickering flame. It is the eternal flame, the fire, the light that will never fade. And it is through me that it will shine again, casting your shadow into oblivion." Asmodeus' eyes narrowed in fury, his lips curling into a twisted sneer. He rose from his throne, and I could feel the weight of his dark power pressing against me, suffocating, threatening to crush my spirit. "We shall see, Blaze Titus," he snarled. "We shall see if your faith is enough to save you." With that, he raised his staff high, and the very halls of the citadel trembled as dark energy swirled around us. The battle had begun. Chapter 7. The Seraphil's Blessing. The clash within the citadel of shadows had been but a fleeting moment in the face of an eternal struggle. Asmodeus's malevolent power surged like a flood of darkness, threatening to swallow all that I held dear. Yet I stood resolute, clutching the scapular upon my chest, knowing that the divine light within it could never truly be extinguished. In the wake of that fierce confrontation, the citadel itself had begun to shake with the tremors of evil's wrath. But amidst the chaos, a powerful presence descended upon me, one of purity, grace, and unshakable strength. From the shadows above, a figure of light descended, Seraphil the Seraphim, whose radiant wings cast a glow brighter than the sun. His very presence parted the darkness around me, and I felt an overwhelming sense of peace settle over my heart. His voice, though soft and gentle, echoed through the very marrow of my bones. "Blaze Titus," the seraph said, his voice resonating with divine authority. "You have faced the darkness, and though you have not yet defeated it, your faith remains unbroken. You carry the sacred scapular, and within it you have been chosen to walk this perilous path. But now the time has come for you to receive the strength you need to continue. It is I who shall grant you the blessing of the heavenly host, so that you may overcome the trials yet to come." Seraphil extended his hand, and as it reached toward me, the light around him intensified, filling the chamber with an ethereal glow. The very air seemed to hum with divine power, and I could feel the warmth of the seraph presence as though it were a physical embrace. With a single touch, the seraph placed his hand upon my forehead. In that instant, I felt a surge of energy, pure, untamed, and overwhelming. It coursed through me, filling every fiber of my being with newfound strength. It was as though the heavens themselves had opened, and I was bathed in their celestial fire. "With a blessing," Seraphil intoned, "you shall be infused with the strength of the seraphim, the clarity of the righteous, and the courage to face which seems to extinguish the light of heaven. You are no longer a mere mortal, Blaze Titus. You are an instrument of divine will, and the path you walk is one that leads to the salvation of all that is good." As the blessing flowed through me, I felt the weight of the world's darkness lifting, replaced by the fierce light of heaven. The scapular resting against my chest pulsed with an earthly energy, as though it were now a conduit for the very power of the divine. The light it emitted seemed to burn brighter, stronger than ever before. In that moment, I understood this battle was no longer mine alone. I was not merely a boy carrying the weight of a scapular amulet. It was anointed by heaven itself, empowered to fight the darkness that had plagued this world for eons. The scapular was not just a tool, it was the key to victory, a symbol of heaven's indomitable will. "Go forth, Blaze Titus," Seraphil continued, his wings spreading wide as he prepared to depart. "Your strength is now greater than any darkness you will face. Fear not, for heaven stands with you, and though the shadows may grow long, you will never be alone." With a final serene smile, Seraphil vanished into the light, leaving me alone in the now quiet citadel. The darkness had been banished, but the sense of urgency remained. Asmodeus had not yet been defeated, and there were still trials ahead. But with the seraph's blessing, I now stood with the might of heaven at my back. The battle had only just begun. Chapter 8. The Scriptures Helps in Wisdom. The journey through the Wailing Valley had left me weary, but my heart was steadfast. The land once shrouded in despair and suffering now radiated with the divine light that I had called upon. The spirits had found their peace, their chains broken by the power of the scapular and the intercession of the Blessed Mother. Yet, in the stillness that followed, I felt a deeper calling, a need to understand more, to prepare for the trials yet to come. As I walked away from the valley, the weight of my mission seemed heavier, for I knew Asmodeus's grip upon the world had not loosened. There was more to learn, more to uncover. The next step of my journey lay ahead, but I felt an urgent need to seek wisdom from the source of all truth. It was then that the Seraphim appeared once more. The seraph, clothed in divine light, stood before me, his presence like a beacon in the gathering twilight. His wings shimmered with celestial radiance, and I could feel the air itself hum with power he carried. He looked at me with kindness, but there was a deep, unspoken understanding in his gaze, the wisdom of the heaven themselves. Please, Seraphim said, his voice like the sound of gentle winds. Your path is long and your trials many, but you are not without guidance. The wisdom you seek lies within the sacred scriptures. The words of Christ written long ago are the key to understanding the battle you face. I stood before him uncertain. But how will these scriptures help me against an ancient and powerful foe as Asmodeus? Seraphim smiled, his expression serene, yet but full of knowing. The scriptures are not just words on a page. They are the living words of God. In them, you will find not only guidance, but the very strength to face the darkness. The teachings of Christ are eternal, and through them, you will learn to wield the light in ways you cannot yet comprehend. But you must trust in them, Blaze, as you have trusted in the scapular. I nodded. Though doubt still lingered in my heart, the path ahead was clouded in uncertainty, and the enemy I faced was powerful beyond measure. Yet there was peace in Seraphil's words, a quiet assurance that the scriptures held the answers I needed. Come, Blaze, Seraphil beckoned. Let us seek the wisdom of the sacred words together. He led me to a quiet grove, a serene place filled with the fragrance of holy flowers and the soft murmur of a nearby stream. There on a stone altar lay an ancient Bible, its pages worn, yet its words as potent as the day they were first written. Seraphil gestured to the Bible, and I approached, feeling the weight of its divine presence. With reverence, I opened its pages, and as I did, a warmth filled the air. The words seemed to glow with an inner light as though they were alive. Seraphil guided me to specific passages, each one more enlightening than the last. Read these words, please, he instructed, for they will strengthen you in ways you cannot yet understand. The first passage he pointed to was the Gospel of Matthew. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I meditated on the words, and in that moment I understood. To be pure in spirit meant to be humble, to acknowledge my limitations and my dependence on God. It was in this humility that the strength would be found, for it was through surrender to God that I would overcome the darkness. Next, Seraphil guided me to a passage from John. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. As I read these words, I felt the light of Christ fill my heart. I knew that the scapular, though a powerful symbol, was only a vessel for the greater light of Christ that resided within me. It was this light, this divine presence, that I would guide me to the coming trials. Finally, Seraphil led me to a passage from Ephesians. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. These words were a revelation. Asmodeus, the great adversary, was indeed a powerful foe, but I had been given the armor of God, the scapular, the wisdom of the scriptures, and the light of Christ. With these I could stand firm against the darkness, and with faith I could bring victory to the light. The divine wisdom of the scriptures flooded my heart and mind, filling me with clarity and purpose. I understood now that the battle was not just a physical one, but a spiritual one. It was a battle for the very soul of mankind, and the scriptures would be my guide to the darkest of times. Thank you, Seraphil, I said, my voice filled with newfound conviction. I now see that the scriptures are the source of my true strength. They will lead me to the shadows and into the light. Seraphil smiled, his wings unfolding as he prepared to depart. Remember, Blaze, he said, his voice filled with gentle wisdom. The scriptures are not just a weapon to wield, but a path to walk. Walk in faith, and the darkness shall never overcome you. Chapter 9. The Tomb of the Eternal Ones. As the days passed in the group, a deep sense of peace settled within me. The scriptures, shared with such grace by Seraphil, filled my soul with wisdom and purpose. Yet, though my spirit had been fortified, the weight of my mission was still heavy. The shadows had not yet been dispelled, and I knew that Asmodeus's dark influence stretched far and wide. In the distance beyond the land I had already travelled lay a place steeped in forgotten history, a place I had heard whispers of in the sacred texts, the tomb of the eternal ones, they called it, an ancient resting place of saints and warriors who had once battled the forces of darkness. Their sacrifices had not been in vain, for their stories were woven into the very fabric of the light that still stood against evil. It was said that within the tomb lay lyrics and sacred scriptures, keys to defeating the darkness once and for all. The journey was not an easy one. The path to the tomb wound through treacherous terrain where the land itself seemed to resist my passage. The mountains loomed overhead, and thick fog clung to the air, obscuring my vision. Yet, despite the dangers, my resolve never faltered. The divine mission that had been entrusted to me was clear. I must find this tomb, uncover its secrets, and gain the strength I needed to face Asmodeus. At last, after the days of travel, I reached the tomb of the Eternal Ones. I stood at the edge of an ancient forest, its stone walls weathered by the passage of time, yet still standing strong. The entrance was a grand archway carved with intricate symbols of the divine, of angels and saints, of the eternal struggle between light and darkness. The air around it was thick with a sense of holiness, as if the very ground beneath my feet had been sanctified by the sacrifices of those who had come before me. As I stepped through the archway, the atmosphere changed. The air grew heavier, charged with a mysterious energy. The tomb was a vast labyrinth of chambers, each one a testament to the divine warriors who had once walked the earth. The walls were lined with ancient relics, swords, shields, and banners, each one imbued with the power of the saints who had wielded them in battle. In the heart of the tomb lay a central chamber, and it was here that I found the most sacred of relics. Upon an altar of stone rested an ancient scroll, its edges tattered with age. The scroll was adorned with symbols of the divine, its language one that I could scarcely understand. But as I reached out to touch it, a voice echoed in my mind, a voice both familiar and foreign, like a whisper from the past. Place, chosen one, the voice said. You have come seeking the wisdom of the eternal ones. The scroll holds the knowledge you seek, but be aware, the path you are in is fraught with peril. The darkness that you face is ancient, and the struggle to overcome it will test every fiber of your being. But fear not, for you are not alone. The light of the eternal ones will guide you, as will the wisdom of the scriptures. The voice faded, but the words lingered in my mind, echoing like a prayer. With reverence, I took the scroll in my hands and unrolled it. As I began to read, the words seemed to come alive, swirling around me like a wind from ages long past. They spoke of great battles fought and won, of saints who had stood against darkness and fallen only to rise again. The scroll revealed the hidden truths of the scapular, that it was not just a symbol of protection, but a key to unlocking the divine power within. But there was more. The scroll also spoke of Asmodeus, of the demon king's origin, and his eternal thirst for power. It revealed that his only weakness lay in the purity of the scapular, which, when yielded by the one of true faith, could bind him for all eternity. The scroll also spoke of the final confrontation, of the trial that awaited me, a trial that would test not only my strength, but my very soul. As I finished reading, the tomb seemed to come alive. The air hummed with divine energy, and I felt a surge of power coursing through me. The relics that lined the walls glowed faintly, and I knew that the spirits of the eternal ones were with me, watching over me as I prepared for the final battle. In that moment, I understood the true weight of my mission. The tomb was not just a resting place for the saints and warriors of old, it was a sanctuary of divine wisdom, a beacon of light in the darkness. The knowledge contained within the scroll would guide me to the trials to come, and the relics of the Eternal Ones would be my weapons in the fight against Asmodeus. I stood for a long time in the chamber, reflecting on what I had learned. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but I knew that with the strength of the scapular, the wisdom of the scriptures, and the guidance of the Eternal Ones, I was ready to face whatever came my way. Chapter 10. The Water of Sanctification. The journey I had embarked upon had taken me through perilous landscapes and faced me with trials that tested not only my strength but my very faith. Yet, as I continued my quest to free the world from Asmodeus's clutches, a voice echoed in my heart, calling me to a sacred place, a place where I might be purified, strengthened, and renewed for the trials yet to come. I had heard of it only in whispers, the waters of sanctification. It was said that these holy waters, flowing from a divine spring, hidden deep within the mountains, possess the power to cleanse the soul and body of all impurity. The faithful who sought the waters were blessed with clarity of purpose, their burdens lifted, and their spirits strengthened. These waters were said to hold the very essence of holiness, a gift from the divine to chosen to fight against the forces of darkness. The path to the waters of sanctification was no simple journey. I traversed through dense forest where the trees whispered ancient prayers, crossed rivers that twisted like serpents, and ascended steep cliffs where the wind howled like the cries of the lost souls. Yet, through every hardship, my heart remained steadfast, for I knew that the divine had called me to a sacred place for a reason. At last, after what seemed an eternity, I arrived at the entrance of a hidden valley, its beauty beyond words. The air here was pure and sweet, the kind of purity that one feels deep in their bones. The valley was bathed in a soft golden light, as if the very sun was tempered by the hand of the divine. In the center of the valley lay a crystal clear lake, its waters shimmering with an otherworldly glow. This, I knew, was the waters of sanctification. The moment my eyes fell upon the waters, I felt a wave of peace wash over me. All the doubts, fears, and burdens that had plagued me throughout my journey seemed to dissipate, replaced by a sense of profound serenity. It was though the waters were calling me, inviting me to partake of their holiness, to cleanse my soul before the final battle against Asmodeus. I knelt at the edge of the lake and dipped my hands into the cool, refreshing water. Instantly, I felt a warmth spread through my body, a warmth that seemed to touch the very core of my being. It was as if I were being bathed in light itself, the waters washing away not only the dirt of my journey, but also the fear that had occasionally gripped my heart. As I immersed myself deeper into the lake, the waters rose to my chest and I closed my eyes, allowing the sanctified liquid to embrace me. In that moment, I felt a presence like the touch of an unseen hand brush against my soul. It was the presence of the divine, the Spirit of the Lord, affirming that I was not alone in the struggle. The power of the scapular, the wisdom of the scriptures, and the guidance of the eternal ones now resided within me, made stronger and purer to the sanctifying waters. I prayed, my heart full of gratitude and hope. O Lord, grant me the strength to face what lies ahead. Cleanse my soul, that I may walk in your light and fulfill the task you have set before me. I am your servant, and I will not falter in my mission. With your guidance, I will defeat the darkness that threatens the world. As I emerged from the lake, I felt renewed, both in body and spirit. The waters of sanctification had worked their divine magic, purging me of my doubts and fears, fortifying my resolve. My connection with the divine had never been stronger, and the path ahead, though fraught with peril, no longer seemed insurmountable. I knew that the final confrontation with Asmodeus was near, but I also knew that I had been strengthened, purified by the waters, blessed by the divine, and armed with the knowledge of the scriptures. The light that now burned within me was brighter than ever, and I was ready to face the trials that awaited me. I offered a final prayer at the edge of the lake, thanking the Lord for the sacred gift. As I turned to leave, I felt the presence of Seraphil, my angelic guide, beside me. You have been made ready, Blaze, Seraphil said, his voice calm and reassuring. The sanctification of your soul is complete. Go forth, for the time has come to face Asmodeus. And with that, I left the sacred valley, my heart filled with the strength of 100 saints. The waters of sanctification had purified me, but it was now my turn to purify the world from the darkness of Asmodeus.